Hello and welcome everybody. This is my 4th episode. Today is March 5th. I do this every Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. And I will take your questions and that I receive at Mailbag at merlinidota.com. I'll pick a couple of good ones and I'll answer them in a weekly series. And the first question that I got this week is... That was good. Hello Merlini. In team matchmaking, as well as recent scrims I've played, I see silencers and gyrocopters being picked a lot as solo mid heroes, and I feel that there aren't many options to counter them in lane. What are your opinions on these heroes in the solo mid position, and how would you deal with them as a captain? Thank you for your time. And as I've been playing IXDL a lot more recently, and I'm like becoming more familiar with the drafts and with recent trends in play. Unfortunately, I have to do like this ghetto word for questions, but I am working on getting a video editor as well as a logo, so expect a little bit more flashy production video stuff soon. And for this question, I'm going to be dealing more with Gyrocopter because my first episode was on Silencer. So this one was a recent game that I played probably around a week ago. And it's two of the heroes in question, solo middle, and it's Arteezy's Gyrocopter versus my Silencer. I'm not the best solo mid, but I'm decent enough so that I shouldn't feed really hard with Silencer, and Arteezy's one of the better North American solo mids. One thing that's unusual about this, however, is that the Gyrocopter was pulled a bottle at the start. He was pulled a bottle, a salve, and he started off with a Wraith Band and an Iron Branch. So already off the bat he has 1,300 gold worth of items before creeps even spawn. And spoiler alert, I proceed to get like absolutely destroyed middle. And I think Silencer's pretty good versus most solo heroes, but I usually don't have this like problem mid where I just like absolutely just lose my lane without any outside interference. But it does happen once in a while, and this was one of the times. And this is what happens when a good Gyrocopter solos middle, especially if he gets pulled. There are a couple things about Gyro that's led to him being like really popular. He wasn't so popular back in like December and January-ish, but a couple of teams started playing him, and like No Tide Hunter like tried to experiment with him in a support role as well as a carry role. And one of the interesting things about this hero is he actually does not need that many items to output a lot of damage, and that's why he actually can fit into a support role. So like 1 minute in, after 2 waves, he has 6 and 6, and I only have 1 CS. So he has 12 times my creep score at this point. And I'm just getting destroyed by good use of Flat Cannon Harass, which has 1,000 range, and Rocket Barrage to push out the creep wave and kill it. And so I don't even have any creeps to tank for me. So he's like standing on the opposite side of my creep wave and just spamming me with flak by attacking the creeps, which is pretty difficult to deal with. I opt for bottle first build, and I don't really think it mattered what I got for my starting items. But for Gyrocopter, there are a couple things about him that make him really strong. First off, his spells are really low mana cost. Flat Cannon takes 50 mana, Rocket Barrage takes 90, and Call Down only takes 125. So even if it gets late game, he can just spam these spells pretty much whenever he wants, especially when he gets like a bottle and pooled and a regen. He doesn't really have to worry about his spells at all. So mana management is really easy for him. Most intel heroes, you always have to watch your mana pool. For example, like Bane Elemental is in this game, and his spells are like ridiculously expensive. Silencer has pretty expensive spells as well, and Enigma, and these heroes are like a little bit more difficult to play because you have to worry about your mana all the time. But with him, he's just like, oh, I'll spam Flat Cannon on creeps, Rocket Barrage, no problem. He also has a really good cast animation, and this is important for especially for carry heroes, because you want to be able to just unload everything at once. Flat Cannon doesn't even have a cast animation, Rocket Barrage is very small, and same with Call Down. So you can just drop all your spells in almost no amount of time, leading him to get a lot of damage out in a very short amount of time. And cast animation is especially important with a hero like Nake's, because his instant cast Rage makes it very difficult to gank him, because if a Chaos Bolt or anything is flying his way, he can just, oh, Rage Dodge, stun. You waste a spell, and you can just turn around on them. He also has really low cooldown spells. His ultimate is his most longest cooldown spell at 55 seconds at level 1, all the way down to 45. And then Rocket Barrage goes all the way to 5.5 seconds, and Flat Cannon is 20. So this means that he can make a lot of mistakes because he doesn't have to really worry about his cooldowns. They're really low mana cost on low low mana cost and low cooldown. So even if he does mess it up, like for example, rocket barrages nothing, or flat cannon and like doesn't hit anything with it, or just totally whiffs his cooldown, it doesn't really matter because it's just up in a few seconds again anyways. And flat cannon is really hard to miss as is. It's a 1000 range and it hits everything, absolutely everything in 1000 range except buildings. So like it's not really difficult to use per se, and I put him like as an easy mode hero along with Nakes, just because you don't really have to have that high of a skill cap to play the hero. And then if you do manage to have a high skill or be a very skilled player and you know how to play the hero, that's when the hero just becomes absurdly overpowered and just like absolutely crushes lanes, snowballs without really much you can do about it. And here he has like phase boots and 500 gold and 36 CS 4 minutes in. I have 4. And I don't think I play like extremely poorly. I definitely could have played better, but at the same time, I'm trying to showcase the power of Gyrocopter here. And like if he uses ultimate and whiffs, it doesn't really matter, and it's already big enough like range as it is. If you like ever play Gyrocopter, it's like almost like half your screen of what cooldown hits. It has like a pretty long delay, but with any sort of decent setup, maybe like Bane Sleep in this game, or Enigma, Black Hole, or RP, then it's very easy to hit. And you never hear someone like, oh my gosh, Gyrocopter's Black Hole's on cooldown, let's push now. That never happens. It will happen for like Black Hole or Global Silence, but cooldown, it's too low cooldown to take abuse of if he whiffs. And he can be in the support role because he does really well without items, because Rocket Barrage does 330 damage at level 1 and I think a whopping 690 at level 4. So level 4 without items, if you take a full Rocket Barrage, that's almost 800 damage. And I just get rocked here. And here he took down my tower 5 minutes in. He has 2 kills, tons of gold. I'm super underfarmed, and this is without any outside interference besides the pooling at the beginning. So yeah, again, he doesn't need any items for his first 3 spells to be, or by first 3 I mean Rocket Barrage, Homing Missile, and Call Down to be effective, and then Flat Cannon scales really well with the items, and you get like 6 free hits on everything in 1000 range, which makes it really, really powerful late game. If you watch like a recent Team Liquid versus Mouse game, Gyrocopter with Rapier is absolutely ridiculous. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it was a pretty incredible game to watch. And again, he like combos really well in triple lanes too. You can put him in the safe lane solo. He's like pretty good against Darkseer and Batrider because he's like they're like the most threatening and common off lane solos and safe lane solos as well. And if you try and like dive him or play really aggressive, he always has Rocket Barrage to fall back on. And then he's also good in triple lane because you can use Homing Missile to set up with, for example, Disruption, like, or even Bane Sleep, and then it has a really long like delay to get to the hero, but when it gets there, it's pretty devastating. And then you always have these 2 spells as well, Rocket Barrage and Flat Cannon for extra strength in triple lane. So he's just a very flexible hero, and he can do pretty much anything: support, carry, gank, power farm with Flat Cannon, ancient stacking, and he has a little bit of everything. And I do think he's slightly overpowered at the moment and definitely worthy of a first phase ban, and if not a first phase, definitely a second phase ban. And I think teams are definitely starting to pick up on it. He's received like a fair amount of buffs in a couple of patches in the past like 4 or 5 months, and I think it's taken a little bit too far. But as in terms of like dealing with Gyrocopter, how do you stop a Gyrocopter? It's pretty hard. Again, if you get a Ghost Scepter, he has all this magic damage. If you get like a BKB, he still has Flat Cannon damage, especially if he goes damage items like Shadow Blade or Daedalus, as most of them usually go. And you really just have to lock him down with like a Beastmaster Roar or like a CK Wisp combo for the Tether Stun to a 2 to 4 second Chaos Bolt Stun is pretty much your best bet at shutting him down mid to late game. But again, he's very difficult to deal with, and he can catch up very easily. He can have a support or just stack Ancients by himself and take out a 4 stack for tremendous amounts of experience and gold. And not that many carry heroes can do that. Like for example, CK has a pretty hard time doing Ancient stacks, and most melee heroes have a pretty hard time unless you have Empower or your Beastmaster with axes. So being able to power Ancient Farm is a very powerful ability that Gyrocopter excels at. And I haven't really found like any good counters, but hopefully we'll see some, because he is like picked and banned in a lot of the competitive games nowadays. So on to the next question. The next question is regarding illusions. Hey Merlini, thanks for taking the time to answer these mailbag questions. I'm relatively new to Dota 2, having only been playing for 4 months. One of the features of the game that I do not quite understand is the dynamics of illusions. I understand that they generally can take extra damage and deal partial damage, but beyond that I am pretty lost. If I had to pick my paramount questions, they would be these. Are there any important tips when dealing with illusions or controlling illusions that you think most players, especially low-level ones, don't know? I have seen games where you have immediately looked at an enemy and known whether it was illusion or the real hero. How do you differentiate between illusions and real heroes so quickly? Are you looking at the HP, RFX, or is the only way to tell by attacking it? Thanks again for taking the time to answer these. So I'm going to create a game and work with, I think Furion, is usually my go-to hero for these sort of games. But for illusions, there's like a lot of intricacies to illusions. Some things carry over, some things do not. Like evasion and critical strikes carry over, but like straight up damage on items do not, and neither does health or mana regen, and a lot of war effects and lifesteal. But those aren't really that important when you want to. Whoops, I forgot to enable cheats. Those aren't really that important when you're trying to differentiate what is an illusion and what's not. The most telltale thing about illusions is that people just don't micro them very well because they don't really care about them. They're just illusions. They're separate extensions from your heroes, and if you micro illusion, you might like lack on micro on your hero because usually people's screen can only be at one place at once, and it's difficult to manage all those things. So I will talk a little bit about illusions, how to differentiate between them, and how to use them effectively. So let me buy Mantis Style. So for illusion runes, at the start of the game, the way you use illusions always depends, and always depends on a scenario and like what the situation calls for. But at the beginning of the game, I generally do like one of two things. If illusion spawns at the 0-minute rune, I usually grab them, and I either use them to gain myself an early advantage in middle by using it to help me last hit, even though they do have like a lot of damage reduction. Or I can use it to harass the hero while I'm trying to last hit myself, or I'll send them like here and here to like block the spawn, because they last for 75 seconds. So that means if you get it at 0:00 when the game actually starts, you can block the 30-second creep spawn and the 1-minute creep spawn. So you can block pretty much 4 creep spawns with 1 illusion rune, which is actually really powerful, and it'll help your top lane out a lot, especially if it's a safe lane solo. But if you don't want to use it like that, you can, sorry, I forgot to actually like use it. So I'll just do it like here and then here, and I'll just send it here, and after that I'll just go back to my lane and start blocking. But that's pretty much what I do with illusion runes. Mantas only last for 20 seconds, which is about a quarter of what the illusion runes last. But for microing illusions, I pretty much just for illusion runes, I just put both of them in control group 2. Sometimes I'll want 2 separate illusions, like one to check bottom rune, let's say, and one to check top rune. And in that case, I'll do like 2 for one, and then 4 for the other, control 2 and control 4. But you don't really have to control group them because they're going to go away very shortly. And how to differentiate between them. They don't really get health regen, but the way I tell is like people just don't pay attention to illusions very often. Like, for example, if you see like a stunner come over here and you're farming middle with like Furion like I am right now, you'll immediately back. And illusions, if you want them to actually believe that it's real, you need to do exactly what you would do in a normal situation. For example, like scouting a rune, if I'm like going down here with my illusion and like I'm walking, and I see a hero right here, I'll just like, you can like pick up the rune and immediately back off. But a lot of people with illusion runes, speaking of illusion runes, they'll just like send it one place and just like completely forget about it, and then it's very obvious when an illusion just like stands there when a threatening hero approaches them, and you can just instantly tell that it's an illusion. And also if they like just do like really stupid stuff, like for example, maybe you're like trying to like snipe the chicken or something with an illusion, and you send it in between the T1 and the T2, and you're like a level 1 hero. That's like something that is really dangerous, and you wouldn't normally do that with your hero. Or like tank creeps like in between the creep wave as a Furion. That's not something you would do, but you might do it to gain vision, right? I can see like pretty far. I can see when the creep wave comes. I can see like if the mid hero is like hiding in this area. I can even put it up here to see if anyone wants to gank me from like this top area. But again, you need to use it for specific things, and don't just like send it somewhere and forget about it. That's what I see That's what I see most people do, and illusion runes are actually really effective. And then now it's almost 2 minutes. 2 minutes means the rune's about to spawn, so that means I'll drag my illusion back over here and scout the rune. And now I know what the next rune is. And if you just like left it there at the ancient spawn because you're afraid of someone ganking from like here going into here, then you know you can just use it to do more things. You can use it to scout and to check the rune. So just try and do more stuff with it. You can also use it to double spawn stacks. I'll do that closer to 3-minute mark. And you can also use it to like tank tower if you're diving people. You can use it to tank Roche. I'll do the Roche real fast. Actually, if you like M-click with them, which is a move, then they won't actually attack Roshan, which means that they won't despawn. Because what triggers the despawn of the illusions is actually them attacking Roshan. So if they don't attack Roshan, then they won't do it. Another thing is like just use these to double spawn creeps. I did it a little bit too late, so I won't be able to double spawn, but you can use illusion to sack 2 camps at once if you have sufficient micro. If I did this one like 5 seconds earlier, I would be able to double spawn it, but you can do this while you're farming mid lane, especially if you're a hero like Shadow Fiend who has a very easy time taking out big creep stacks, especially when they're not magic immune. You definitely want to use that if you can, just to pump up your farm. You can also use it for like ganking and for deception. So if you're a Night Stalker middle, everybody expects a Night Stalker to farm to gank at nighttime. So if you get like the rune at 4 minutes and then you save it into your bottle until 6, and then you send one illusion mid and you actually micro it, if you just like have it like right here, just like standing here, not attacking anything and not farming, people think that it's an illusion because normally people will be farming with it. So if you like micro in last hit and try and deny and play it like you normally would while you're on your way to a different lane, they won't call missing because they don't know that your hero is gone, because you're playing it like a real hero. And what also important to do with your illusions is when I try and do this trick with when I'm farming middle with an illusion, I always get the very last hit with the illusion, just like that. Because if you hit it any earlier, then they'll realize that it's an illusion because they don't do full damage. So if you like try and hit down like a melee creep and your enemy's observant, look how little damage that is compared to a normal hit. And this is a level 25 Furion, so like a level 1 Furion with illusions won't do any damage. So I only go for like the very last hit so that people can't tell that it's an actual illusion. And there's like a lot of telltale signs that leads me to believe that people are like micro illusions or not. For example, the low damage, for example, not running away from heroes, just doing stupid stuff with it because they're not actually controlling it because they don't care about it. A couple things that you can actually use it for too that's pretty situational is like you can save it for team fights. Like for example, let's say they're chasing me up this hill, I can like I'll like have my bottle, and then like as soon as I turn this corner, I'll pop an illusion, and then they'll usually think that the first hero they see is an illusion, and you can just like pop it right as soon as you turn this corner, and then as they run into it from like running over here, they'll just stun your illusion. So you can use it like if you're on the chase. Also you can use it to tank some spells, for example, Eclipse and Omni Slash illusions are really useful for, but just be careful that you don't actually use it for things that could harm you, like Chain Frost. If you have Chain Frost and you Manta, normally it would only hit your hero, but if you split, it's going to hit you like 2 or 3 times. And same with Shackle Shot. Don't have like illusions follow you and then just like set you up for an easy shackle when there aren't any trees around. So just be a little bit careful about that. One other thing you can use it for is like blocking opponents with illusion runes. This is like it's not very easy to execute at all. Like try and block this neutral creep on its way back, but neutral creeps are a little actually de-aggroed them. But you can just try and I usually like put them in control group too, and then I'll just like block them. It's more effective if you're I even failed that. It's more effective if you have like a lot of move speed, because illusions retain move speed. So mine have 324 without boots and with Manta style. But like a naturally fast hero such as Naga Siren or Luna, it's much easier to illusion block with them. But just try and do different stuff with them. If you have like a gem of True Sight, you can like go dewarding with them, because illusions retain True Sight as well. And a lot of people, I just see them just have them with their hero all the time, and it's so obvious when there are 3 Furions and he doesn't have a Manta, and it's just like completely obvious that it's him. And I think you can use them a lot more. They're probably the most underrated rune. Everybody knows what you can do with the haste and invis and double damage, but illusions are one of those runes that is a wild card, and you can do a lot of things with them. So definitely don't underestimate illusion runes, and they have gotten buffed. People are like, oh man, this rune's useless, and it got buffed from like 45 seconds to 60 seconds, and they're like, oh man, this rune's useless, 60 to 75 seconds. This rune's useless, 1 illusions to 2 illusions, and it's been buffed significantly, and you can just do more and more. With 2 illusions, you can like pull 2 sacks at once, you can just do a lot of other things with it, and you can check both runes at one time, and them lasting 75 seconds is very, very strong too. So you can have scouting information for 75 seconds instead of like 45, or even with Mantas like 20 seconds. But anyone who plays like StarCraft or Warcraft 3, the RTS instead of Dota, knows how important enemy information is. And like you can even use it like check to see if they are doing ancients, check like if they're on their way mid to push, check if they're doing Roshan. So information is really, really important in this game, and illusions are one of the best way to gain more information from your opponents. But that will conclude my weekly mailbag. Again, I'm trying to get like more production value out of this by having an intro and outro, but I'm still working on that and finding the right people and finding the right designs for the logo and stuff. So thanks everybody for the questions. Again, if you have any Dota related questions that aren't Googleable, that's I guess my baseline for questions, then mail me at mailbag@merlinidota.com. And if you have like general questions, comments, or concerns, just mail me at merlini@merlinidota.com. Thank you very much.